white man magic was a concept that my father said. He mentioned that at least 20-something years ago. He said, this is basically what white man magic is. White man magic is things that we may do, let's say, us as African people will have been doing things before white, of course, before the European was even created. And then you have Europeans who do the same thing that we do, mimic it, pervert it, and it's completely something totally different. Example, perfect example is, let's say, in ancient Africa, or even today, ancient Africa, for example, you have us that get healed by shamans, get healed by herbs, get healed by being on certain frequencies, or those that are of the sisters that are of the matriarch role will be the natural healers of those that are in that African village, or even just of the African tribe. There was no need to take what we know as medications and have to have, specific types of surgeries and have things attached to you, situations like that. Rahubat. Whereas with you dealing with the European, what he would do was he would go into, during the time of colonialism, he would take certain herbs and he would learn. What he would do is he would disguise himself as this, of course he was a foreigner, but he would disguise himself as somebody who was actually trying to learn. He wasn't trying to learn, he was trying to steal the secrets and steal the customs and the ways and pervert them and steal certain herbs. And when he comes over here, he takes those herbs and he creates medications. He was, of course, stress it out, take it from what was a natural state and turn it into an unnatural state and get us to follow those situations and get us to use those as medications. And whereas you take it back to this is fast forward to today, you have Africans born in America that rather than decide to get healed holistically, they decide to go to go to the hospitals and take the medications and what have you, rather than decide to go through the gradual process of healing themselves holistically. So it's, my father said, that's like white man magic. You choose to go ahead. Or Rahubat. You choose to go into a situation where instead of dealing with who you are, sort of resonating with what works for you naturally, you rather go to the European for everything. It's another example. My father created a sport that mixed in football, soccer, and a couple other sports, but it was our own sport. This was the time at the height of the ancient Egyptian order in the year 2000, and his mindset was, and it always will be the same mindset, is we don't need any of the sports that pervert us and exploit us. But you still have, people at that time that was knocking what he was trying to do and decided to go to the European and perform for him. The mindset of white man magic. It's the same thing that our brother Claude Anderson said, that black ice, the whole old saying is white ice is better than black ice. And you got to realize this mindset, because I'm pointing out two examples, but this mindset goes back in reality, as my father pointed out, to 6,000 years ago, when the Ptolemy era began to really take over. When our kingdoms began to completely fall in ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, ancient Atum-Re, and it began to be all about the European, the Roman, and the Greeks. And because of miscegenation going on, a lot of things began to take shape or began to change. The first thing is our complexion began to change. And then not just the complexion began to change, the things that we used to do began to change because the European, the beast man, began to become a part of our DNA. So a lot of times you have to think, to this day, a lot of our people, when they want to do things, when they think about doing certain things, a lot of times they're fighting the beast within themselves first. And they don't lean on the natural African side. They look at the African side as a problem. Like, that's just too hard for them to do. The European side is somewhat the easiest side for them to relate to. So when you see a lot of you see a lot of Africans doing European type things, that's a genetic battle within themselves. So you take that part of 6,000 years, and then you fast forward again into our bondage of 500 years. These are rapings going on, male and female. I'm touching on the male.
I got a question what you were speaking of. Not trying to digress from the situation. Can you give me an example of like what do we do that's more towards our European side than the African side, like a battle? Like, can you like give a good example?
Mm-hmm. No, it's not so much it's a subconscious choice. It's a very subconscious choice when we do those things. It's not so much that it's covert and overt self-hatred, but a lot of it is covert. A lot of times we don't know what we do when we do it. So when you're dealing with the choices that we're making, a lot of it is just it's an underlying, think of, well, this side is pretty much better, because they make, of course, in TV, in the media, they make the European side seem easier to do, and they make the African side seem savage and seem crazy and seem demonic. So automatically they make it an easier choice to do. Go ahead, brother.
Well, the reason why I was saying was an example because, like you said, most of it is covert. We don't know what we're actually doing that's more towards the European side. When I was saying, like, an example, I know this is probably like another a common example. Where I was saying like another good example that most of us really don't know, even us, the Nuwaupians, that's today, like, our sisters who go out here, they get their hair permed and everything else. Cause I had a little talk with a sister about it, and it comes out to be the same thing. You tell them about, the blonde hair and everything else, and they come up with a strong reason on why they're doing it, besides them not being self-hatred, even though we know that deep down inside they may not sit here and hate themselves purposely, but unconsciously that they are doing it. So, that's how I was saying, because it may be something that I'm doing that's geared towards the European side than the African side, because some of us don't even know what is the African side that we need to start leaning on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, it is covert, but I don't want to get us off the hook of a lot of things that we're doing now that are very overt. It's a subconscious choice. You're right about that, and but the problem is going into, let's say, right now. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take you to 1915, 1920. This is something that I talked with a sister about a couple of days ago. We made choices. At some point, we made choices in time, and this is tying right back into the subject. We, at some point, were faced with two black leaders at some point between the 1910s and 1920s, around that time, Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois. The majority chose W.E.B. Du Bois' ideology over Marcus Garvey. That's just the bottom line. We wanted a European mindset. We wanted to be miscegenated, and a lot of us wanted to be integrated because a lot of us was in fear of what Europeans were doing to us at that time. And Garvey was literally telling people, have no fear, stand up, do for self. A lot of blacks were just literally in fear of trying to do that mindset, was actually trying to implement that mindset within themselves. They didn't see that as a savior. They saw miscegenation and integration as a savior. That's a choice. That's a conscious decision. And you're going back. Go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
I was asking W.B. Du Bois. That was the guy who I think you touched on him. That was the guy whose base was fully against Marcus Garvey's teachings. Marcus Garvey was mostly like, let's get on the boat and let's go back home to Africa, while W.B. Du Bois was telling people to stay here and not jump on the man's skin tone. But I heard W.B. Du Bois was like a bright-skinned fellow. Am I right?
Yeah. The thing is that, I'm just going to explain this to you. You got to realize, again, a lot of us saw that even to this day, because that was like literally the first time we were faced with a black leader to that magnitude in America that was telling us to basically get up and do for self. Elijah Muhammad or Noble Drew Ali was not really around at that time. It was Marcus. And so you dealing with a man named Du Bois that connected himself to Europeans. I'm not saying that Du Bois didn't change his ideology at some point, but a lot of our people began to work with him because he got a lot of us to see Marcus as a bad man. And so when you fast forward to now into the annals of history, they mark Marcus as a bad man. And so we will see everything now through the eyes of a European. Everything that we do, everything that we see, whether it's the mate that we choose, the food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, everything is a European mindset. So when you're looking from that perspective, fast forward that to right now, a lot of that has not changed. Okay? You taking it to black leaders right now, and there's very few. There's still some, of course. My father, Dr. York, still exists. You know, our organization, Nuwaupu, still exists. You still have Pan-African movements that's going on. You have RBG movements. You have the Moors. You have different factions that still exist. But the majority of our people are consciously making a decision to go to the European mindset. You got to realize Islam is a European mindset. It's not an African mindset by birth. That's an African mindset by colonialism and conversion. Okay, so that's not a mindset that we naturally chose. We wasn't the Nazi Black Sea did not manifest itself from Islam. Islam is a foreign religion. Christianity is a foreign religion. So when you're having blacks, you know, Africans making decisions that are deciding the rest of their fate from seeing it from a European mindset, that's a problem. That's the majority that's making this decision. Okay? If, for example, if I come into, that's how foreign it is right now, meaning that if I come to, biggest example, I go to Africa today. Okay, the majority religion over there is Islam, right?
I heard that.
It wasn't like that, greetings. It wasn't like that, let's say, 6,000, 10,500 years ago. But like I mentioned to you, based upon years and years of letting down the immigration laws, miscegenation and integration, and then a period of time where we converted to Islam, a lot of it was forced upon us as well. There you have a situation where that's the home religion of blacks in Africa at this time. But if I'm talking about America right now, the biggest problem is that, again, the biggest thing you have to see in your mind is that a lot of us are seeing everything as if we're a white person. We're seeing it from a slave master mindset. That's the biggest thing you have to see. We talk about 9 ether and 6 ether all day long, but a lot of us are seeing ourselves as 6 ether beings consciously. Because if you're looking at a sister today, the majority is the fact that we have to celebrate blacks or black sisters going, you know, getting natural hair, getting locks, you know, afros, and you know, short naturals, even, you know, getting balls. The fact that we're celebrating that movement means that it's in the minority. I'm not saying that it's starting to progress. Of course, we can see the progression of it, but the fact that we have to celebrate that, the fact that sisters are going back to something, that's not something new. That's something old, because that's who we are. But the reality of it is this: a lot of our sisters are seeing, and they've been seeing this since slavery. They've been seeing the perm, the process, lace front wig as what they want to be, because subconsciously, again, white man magic. You see yourself more beautiful as a European woman. You want to be, as my father, Dr. York, said, you want to be a plastic European woman. You want to be plastic. So why should I settle for you, who's a plastic European? I'm about to go get a white woman myself, because you're training me to like something other than self. You're showing me that white is actually right because you're advertising it to me. I'm a black man, and I'm seeing you as a European, as a miscegenated European woman. But in reality, you force yourself to see everything, or to see yourself as ugly, the original part of self as ugly, and you've accepted something that was forced upon you as beautiful. White man magic. That's our problem. Is that clear to you, brother?
Yeah, it's very clear, and it makes something real quick. When I was talking to the sister about that, the one thing she threw out at me was, you know, how the texture of her hair is actually bad in a subliminal way, because I asked her, I said, what's wrong about just actually going natural? She was saying, like, when she was doing hair, or doing braids, that by doing people's hair nappy, it actually hurted her hands. And she said this is the reason why a lot of black women actually get perms to make their hair more soft and more firmer and everything else. Then she was saying
bullshit, but go ahead.
Yeah, I know it's bullshit, but then she said the reason why a lot of black women get like different color hair because they want to be more creative and everything else. And I was just looking at it real quick. Yeah, more bullshit. So I just let her kept on going with it because we was in a spot where I couldn't just really debate her at. But yeah, that's a little excuse that a lot of women are actually giving. And I did hit with the whole basic much. If you're going to go out here with perm hair and everything else, because they personally they think I have a white woman fetish, which I don't. I just sit here and say, like, you guys are just promoting Europeanism or saying white peopleism. I mean, but you get mad if I sit here and go out with with a white woman. I mean, but you're the one who are basing us the prototype. It just really didn't make no sense to me.
Yeah, it's covert. A lot of it with our sisters is this is years and years of seeing things through that mindset, and I'm not giving them a pass, because the bottom line is this: there is no way that sisters and brothers in America, black Africans in America, born in America, have never come across knowledge of self. There's no excuse at this point. That's why I said the reality of it is we're in HA. This is hereafter time period. This is on the other side of none. Everyone has come across knowledge of self at some point. You just decided to not go with it. You decided not to read. You decided not to study. You decided not to do your research. You decided to accept yourself as a plastic European. White man magic. You've accepted this. The biggest thing, that the biggest problem that we faced in this society has been what, as a people, was the fact that we decided to integrate with the European. That is our biggest problem, and we still want to integrate. You walk down the street now, whatever city you're in, I don't care if it's Atlanta, I don't care if it's Houston, I don't care if it's New York, it don't matter. You can see a black woman or you see a black man walking with a European white man, European woman, whatever. They see that as being the goal that they want to reach. Some brothers and sisters do that as a means to try to get ahead in this world because they think they're making their life easier. That's not the case, okay? But they're seeing this specific species as a superior over God, which is the African, the black African. That's the problem. I'm going into, again, the fact that we integrated was the fact that we lost our businesses. Everything that we've done over the years in this time period, from the late 60s to now, because of coming into integration, we pushed off black businesses. Perfect example. I have my mother. She sells oils. Everyone knows that my mother sells oils, but you have people who are leaning. They may lean. They may not decide to buy something from her. They'll turn around and be like, "That's fake." They would rather go to Walmart. They'd rather go to a Target. They'd rather go to a mall and buy perfume and cologne from the European, because in your mind you're buying your way into white man magic. You're buying your way into the European. You see Europeans more appealing than something that's actually healthier for you, because at the end of the day you see yourself as that. You want to be that. That's the bottom line. From even from haircuts, the thing is, people expect us to always deal with the sisters in terms of their hair. You got brothers with these outlandish haircuts, and it's ridiculous. The weird looking fades that we've been doing for years, and that's European. The fades, the haircuts. That doesn't come from us. Fades don't come from black people. Go back, look at different pictures of different Romans and different Greeks at the time, and look at the type of head they had. Go back to Rome and look at Caesar. That's why they called it Caesar at some point. My father pointed this out back in 1992. And if, for example, when I was going to school from my junior to senior year, I was wearing a fro, I was looked down upon by my own people because I wasn't walking around with a fade. White man magic. You see an image that is other than self as superior over you. You follow? That's the problem. We don't want to deal with self. We don't want to cleanse self. There's certain things, again, genetically. Another problem is genetics. Because he's within us, we have to fight the beast, the devil within us, and try to weed that part of us out, or at least control that part of us that rests within us, the slave master that resides within our genes. And we refuse to do that. We, a lot of movements run around talking about we're gonna whoop the white man ass, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, but you haven't even attacked the devil within self, because that devil within self is not allowing you to kick the habits that is within you that only Europeans have exercised, from the alcohol to the drugs. All these things are European practices. The porn, all these things, again, are European practices. But you refuse to deal with that. So eventually, you got to realize, the more and more you do a practice, eventually it becomes completely part of you, and that side of you will take over. That will be exactly who you are. So we got to get to the point as a people, and thing is, we push this so much, and this is not a dead horse, this is reality, is that we have to start seeing ourselves as the superior over everybody else. This is not still, as I said before, Kalun, all is, still is. But the reality of it is this: genetically, we are superior to everybody else on this planet. That's an actual fact, and that's a genetic fact, and that's a scientific fact. But we have to, at the end of the day, know this for ourselves and stop seeing them as a goal to reach. Stop seeing them as some type of genetic goal to reach. Recessivity should not be a goal to people who are progressive. That's the problem. We see ourselves as inferior because of years and years of being told that. Eventually you begin to internalize it. And so, in part, we begin to look at the people who have told us who we were and who have defined our history as being the God. That's our problem. So all these years, the thing is, with that concept, he was pointing out the problem is that we don't want to see ourselves as being a superior. As I said before, we want to integrate with the beast, with the mutant, with something that is regressive. Because at the end of the day, we've been told over the years that he is superior. That's something that we have to get over, and that's something that we have to change within ourselves. Any more questions?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And like we was talking about earlier with the hair, somebody actually pointed out that, sisters are still stuck at it. At one point in time, us men was actually stuck on the hair permanent thing as well, because, like your father was teaching us a long time ago, the television, how they basically put images on TV, and we actually followed. Now, you knew at a certain point in time they did not have Negroes on TV. So when you, let's say that as a child, you watch, let's say, Superman. Eventually, you wanted the suit, you put the cape on, and then you want the hairstyle. Brothers like Chuck Berry came out. He had the perm out as well. Not saying he copied Elvis Presley, because we know he came out first, but he was mimicking a lot of Europeans that was on TV. And then over the years, when when we start getting in touch with self, eventually brothers broke out of the hair perm thing altogether. Even though it kind of made a comeback in the 80s and 90s with the Jerry curl, and even still to this day, but it's not just as big, but it seems like sisters just kind of got stuck in there. I don't know, because at one point in time, it was like with us, the Afros and everything else, but it seemed like they got put right back in there, and that was really kind of weird to me, how sisters kind of got stuck in there.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point you pointed out about Superman. Just not even so much Superman, just, as I said before, the Hulk Hogans of the world, the Peyton Mannings of the world, I'm glad you touched on sports. A lot of us like to see, even though this, sports is literally another form of slavery, just the mindset that a lot of people that I notice I talk to a lot of times, they choose white athletes over black athletes. And this was going into a subject that I'm going to go into not tonight, but this Wednesday. This is going to be a part 2 to the pineal gland and the melanin molecule, extraterrestrial molecule class, is that a lot of us don't see us. The thing is, it goes back to not seeing ourselves as superior. And we will tend to see a white athlete as superior to us to this day. Even though the best athletes are black, we still will see the whites as being the leadership roles. Of course, because they're put in the leadership roles in these situations, we don't see the melanin taking over in these different situations where, of course, slave labor, the $1 million Negro is taking over. The $1 million slave is the reality. The reality of it is, if you want to see melanin, or you want to see the melanin, the extraterrestrial molecule take place on planet Earth in the simplest form, look at sports. That's the bottom line. But a lot of us like to find ways for that great white hope. And I'm not even talking about Europeans. Of course, that's a European concept. But you got blacks that like to see the great white hope take over. They don't want to see, the black athlete. They want to find a means to beat down their own people in sports. Because slowly but surely, of course, I was a sports fan for years, but I'm slowly but surely breaking away from that matrix. Because it's nothing but, again, racism, white supremacy to this day. It's just funny to see and hear our own people find ways. That's just a subconscious form of seeing him as superior to self. It's a big complex. It just has to be broken.
Just like your boy Mayweather, I used to be around a lot of people, debating about him. Now, during school, it was common to hear white people and Hispanics talking about Mayweather, how he's not a good boxer and everything. But then when you start seeing a lot of blacks kind of down talking him, and I was like, what reason is there to not like Mayweather? I mean, not like him as a person. I'm talking about his boxing skills. I mean, I'm saying the guy just there's no rule in boxing saying you got to get hit. But I just see a lot of people really find a lot of reasons, and then when they don't like them, when they go to personal business, which doesn't have anything to do with the sport. It just really shows you how far we have gone into hating ourselves. You can't just hate. You just can't not like nobody just because of what they're doing in their career. You got to go personally, to them, And just like the guy who just got out of jail, Lil Boosie, I'm not a big fan of his rapping. He has 1 or 2 good songs, but the guy's actually a true humble guy. Despite some of his shortcomings, but we have a lot of people who really was hating on him and comparing him up to let's say a famous leader who just got out of jail, a Black Panther who just got out of jail. People was really kind of comparing up to them. I was like, it's true. You can't compare 2 people, saying up to somebody just because you don't like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we don't even know what as a people as a whole, we don't really know what a political prisoner really is. We have to educate our people on what it really means to be locked up unjustly. To have to teach our people on my father being locked up unjustly, Mumia Abu Jamal, Asada Shakur, A-Trap Brown, all these situations that are prevalent that really need to be talked about. We'd rather talk about Boosie. And that's just a reflection of a lot of us of who they are within their mindset, is that they like to see, because he's not talking about anything progressive. It's not like he was a rapper that was negative for a long time and then turned around and decided to talk about knowledge of self. That's not Lil Boosie. And I'm not knocking our brother. That's the thing. I don't come on here to knock our people, but I'm just pointing out the obvious is that rather than look at our own people that fought for something, we're looking at those that really don't give a damn. That is just like, I came out and I'm going to do something again anyway, and thank you. I don't know y'all, but okay, thank you for praising me. That's a mindset. That's why I said a lot of us are choosing, making the choice. A lot of us are choosing to praise the black devil rather than praise those who are actually trying to uplift. So that is a problem as well. I'm glad you mentioned the Boosies of the world, because seeing that, I just, it's just funny to me. It was kind of funny. I'm like, okay, you know, you got a lot of problems that we're facing, but it's like we get distracted about so many different situations and that go on that have nothing to do with progression. And again, it still ties into white man magic because that's the media. You know, we're exercised and energized by what the media is telling us to like. We don't go out and say like, wow, like to look at the sister that was facing 20 years for doing a shot up in the air. You don't see none of these people saying justice for her, but you like free Boosie. That's a mindset. That is a warped, perverted mindset. Because
I thought
go ahead, brother.
I said I had thought she was free until somebody told me she's still up in jail. I'm like, wow, Obama even talked about it.
Yeah. They're still arguing over the charges right now. Still, I mean, you know, it's ridiculous. We're again praising the Boosie situation for him getting out, but we're not really paying attention to what's going on with our sister that's facing some bullshit charges. That's ridiculous. You know, again, we are seeing his media, and this all goes back to, again, white man magic. It goes back to the media choices that we make. We pay attention to things that are very detrimental to our psyche, our genetics, because, again, going right back to genetics, the things that we pay attention to, the things that we connect our frequency to, it ignites the genetic genetic slave, that genetic slave master within self that is dormant, but is no longer dormant, is very prevalent. Because how is it prevalent? Because your actions are showing how prevalent that European is in your genes. Not just in your mindset, but within self. Because there's very few, it's a 2% ratio of an indigenous Nazi black seed somewhere on this planet. A lot of us are very much European or 6 ether in thought process, and now 6 ether in frequency. White man magic all over again. So we have to get to the point again that it's practices that need to take place. We got to start pushing a lot of what is being pushed on us, the grid of this media, a lot of what we're being taught to like, and being able to learn how to be able to embrace people who are doing for self, being able to embrace black businesses again. We got to get out of the system. You know, and I understand, the thing is, we always make excuses for what we cannot do, because the excuses mean you would rather be over there with them. And if you'd rather be over there with them, that mindset is a demon seed within the group of people who are saying, I'm tired of allowing others to rape our resources. I want to do for self. So that type of mindset, you're either going to change your mindset or we're going to no longer work with you. You can't work with something that eventually is going to spread and destroy what you're trying to put together. Any more questions?
Yeah, I had was saying one more question just for right now. I was with our brother Smirk Chris the other day, and we was talking about different fighters. You know, we was talking about one of the famous fighters, Rampage Jackson. He told me Rampage Jackson, he looked online, Rampage actually has a albino son, you know. And, you know, so somebody was making a couple of jokes saying, you know, maybe because Rampage was over there in Japan, messing with Japanese women, you know, somehow probably altered his genes. We was making jokes, you know, not saying it was real. But then, too, it had me kind of thinking about that, by being around different people can affect your genes as for your children coming out. And then I never asked this question. It's popped right now on me. During the school of Christianity, when your father was teaching us about, you know, ham seeds, cannon, about during the Bible, it was letting you know you was not supposed to mix your seeds with a Canaanite, because not only they had leprosy, there was albino. And it was a picture in a book, I think it's called Mitochondrial DNA, your father just put out. I didn't get a chance to read it all, but when I was seeing it, looking at some of the pictures, I was seeing it was showing some albino children, and it was showing over, I guess in certain tribes, they use them for hunting. Like they kind of hunt them down and kind of take their limbs or something like that. And I was just getting a little bit down. I know they was hunting down when I was looking through the book. And then now that we could confirm that you mix your seeds with the Europeans, you're basically mixing yourself out. So since the albino Nubians are still our brothers and sisters, I want to know is
you said albinos our brothers and sisters.
Are they or are they not? I thought they was
no, they are. I'm messing with you. Yeah, they are. Go ahead.
Right. So my thing is this: if a black man messes, a black person who has say melanin, they whole melanin, everything else messes with an albino, are they still mixing themselves out, and are they just are they endanger their children or their seeds in the future?
Yeah, because you're mixing with a regressive gene. It's regressive. I mean, albinos are regressive. That's the bottom line. If you come across a regressive sister that's albino, that's regressive. The whole purpose, the Nuwaupian mindset is to marry amongst the stronger gene, the Nubian. When you come across an albino, the albino's purpose is to either stay with other regressive genes, or try to mix in and prolong their genes, or make their genes that comes out of them stronger. They have a purpose, you have a purpose. So you have to ask yourself, what exactly am I doing when because the thing is, the mindset is we have to get it back into a thought process of mating based upon genetics. My father talked about mating upon genetics. They're still our brothers and sisters, but you have to make the conscious decision to say, okay, I'm going to marry for the stronger gene pool as opposed to marry over emotion. Because you have to keep that and keep that in your mind. You have to keep that in your conscious decisions, because it's cool to say, well, they are brothers and sisters, of course, but our purpose is to prolong, because again, we're at the fourth generation, and because we're at the fourth generation, there's so many different factors, from homosexuality to the prison system to all these things, to things in our food that are in diseases and cancer that starting to kill us, and we're leaning almost to a minus birth rate as a people. We have to think, okay, what is the easiest way we can prolong ourselves, and is to marry amongst the stronger gene. That's what you have to do. They're still our brothers and sisters, but it will be wise enough, which is, of course, your decision to do what you want to do, marry amongst the stronger gene. Because they're regressive. Bottom line is they're a defect. You're coming out of something that is, you could have a child. Reality is, you can have a child right now with the darkest sister you can find, and your child might come out albino. Again, the European is in our genes. So it makes a difference, of course, because you're trying to correct something that is a defect. But consciously, regardless of who it is, it will be best for that individual to not marry amongst that defect, but to marry amongst that progressive gene. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question fully. I'm glad you broke it down, because it's been on my mind, for years. Because I know throughout the schools, different mindset doctors put us through certain things we take out of it, certain things we leave. So I'm glad that you explained down more into a better scientific term, than more of a religious term that I had at first.
No problem. I do my best, man.